G'day, legends, and welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight is one of the OGs, an original guy, Johnny. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Jared. I'm good. I was just talking to you off pod there about been on site a lot for the last couple of weeks, which has been weather-wise a bit on and off, but it's been nice to be out of the office and seeing some of the more derelict parts of Brisbane, I guess, and yeah, digging nice things. So yeah, no, it's been good for the last couple of weeks. I've been enjoying it.
No, it's good, mate. It's good keeping you busy. That's the main thing.
That is
yes,
amazing.
I'm just going to comment before anyone does there. Yes, we're normally on a Wednesday. We're changing up the shows this thing, so we're going to have a live stream on a Monday night, our time, and at the same time on Thursday night. So we'll have that, but then we'll still have the other content coming out on the channel as pre-recorded videos as well. So the channel's growing. We're just adjusting how we're doing it. So the Pot Noodle has gone from Wednesdays to Monday now. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but should be fun.
The diet is changing. We're having our pot noodles on a Monday.
Exactly. It's back to the original spot that we had for this podcast when it first started 4 years ago or something like that. The pod was on a Monday night. So we're back in our original time slot. We'll see. So it's good fun.
Big full circle, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a bit to talk about tonight. So clearly we've got the game on the weekend to talk about. As you can see in the headline and the name of the episode is Carl Starfelt played his last game for Celtic. We'll discuss that, obviously. And then we're going to talk about who we should potentially replace him with, whatever. So if he does move on. So light up that comment section. Put in your thoughts on the game. Whenever we're talking about a topic, chuck your thoughts in there. Put who you think we should look to replace him with if Starfelt does leave. And we'll try and make the show as interactive as possible. Knowing full well that we're over here in Australia as well. So the Matildas are about to play at 8:30. So you might try and get the show done by then so people can watch our Women's World Cup game that's coming up shortly. So we'll crack on, Johnny. So Flag Day, 4-2 to Celtic. Now I'm going to just go through the starting lineup because going into the game, I think the majority of us had the thoughts of what's the starting lineup going to be? And there was two question marks. Like I went on Axon last Thursday and we're talking about it. And the two areas, the front three, Abada, Maeda, Kyogo, they pretty much picked themselves. That's what we all expected. Then it was coming down to midfield. Is it going to be Turnbull? Is it going to be... I actually thought it'd be Hatate, Turnbull, O'Reilly and Kelmack. But then at the same time, I thought if Turnbull come in, O'Reilly would drop out, not Hatate. So that was a spot to look at there. And then it was who's going to start at centre back. And who's going to start at right back? Is it Awada at right back? Or is it Ralston? Is it Carter Vickers and Starfelt? Or is it Naroki? We all got our answers. So it was a bit of an interesting sort of lineup there. We got a debut boy starting there and Naroki at left centre back. What was your thoughts when you saw the starting lineup, John?
Yeah, I think much as you've kind of alluded to, I was somewhat shocked at some of the decisions, or surprised, I should say. I think especially from what I was saying last week, I was surprised that Turnbull got the nod. Look, I was going to say not so much that I think he's a bad player. I clearly didn't think he was necessarily good enough for our squad. I'm happy to admit that. I probably would have said in hindsight that I think archetypally he's quite similar to O'Reilly, so you probably would have played them together. But that was the decision that was made, and it's clearly paid off. I think he played an absolutely phenomenal game. Maybe Turnbull, the style that he plays just suits Rodgers' system more. I mean, we might see more of this. This might be an upward trajectory for Turnbull and the start of good things and stuff. So that was definitely a big surprise to me. I guess like the Rowson thing isn't a huge surprise. It was like his first game where from Rodgers' interview post-match, it was his first sort of game where he was, fit enough to actually play 90 minutes. So makes sense to play a right back rather than sort of a makeshift right back. I think everybody else was just kind of, I mean, O'Reilly, I guess. You could have said Hatate instead, but I guess with the Turnbull situation, everybody else sort of fitted together. Somewhat of a surprise with the Starfelt stuff, as the title suggests. But I probably would have said that our new centre-back signing, this is going to be the pairing. So, I guess that I would, if I was to put money down on it, I'd have said Naroki would have started. But a couple of surprises, question marks, but overall, decent squad, decent starting lineup.
Yeah, just for me with Naroki, it's like we spent a lot of money on him, and I know we're trying to strengthen the squad overall, and especially for Europe. So you look, you got Carter Vickers, which is a £6 million centre back. You got Naroki at like 5 million, and you got Starfelt we paid 4 for. There's 15 million for 3 players who can only play 2 positions. So
Yeah,
it really doesn't surprise me in a way that Naroki got the start. I thought he looked pretty solid
yep,
overall.
me too.
Only the one thing that I've seen anyone mention online and in the comments here, it's already been brought up, was he got out jumped for one of their goals for their first goal.
Yep,
Other than
absolutely.
that, I don't really think he did anything wrong. But it's not just Naroki who's done that, because we've had so many other players in the past who have been out jumped at centre back. Like, what's our Bermuda Triangle of centre backs that I refer to on the pod a few times, Johnny? Guys like Effie Ambrose,
Yeah,
guys like Dedrick Boyata, Jozo Siminovic. There's a whole bunch of those sort of guys there. I'm just rattling off 3 in a row there that also weren't that great. So it's like, we're going to give him time. I'm sure he'll come right. But yeah, it was. I'm not going to point the finger too bad. Okay,
no.
Naroski. Thank you, Michael Ross, pronouncing his name wrong. It's Naroski. There we go. Appreciate that.
Naroski. Let's just call him Rocky. I think I like
Yeah.
that name. That's his
So
official name.
yeah. So overall, I thought, didn't surprise me he started, and then the midfield. Why I was unsure, and I thought it'd be Hatate'd start and it'd be O'Reilly or Turnbull, John, was because under Ange, any time O'Reilly and Turnbull played together, it was like too similar of a player, if that made sense. And there wasn't enough dig in the midfield. That's what I thought last season. To have them both out there, Turnbull, yeah, he scored a few goals, he did well, but yeah, he's just got to get back into it after having barely played for so long. But yeah, I just thought the midfield was a little lightweight, in my opinion, but that'll come over time as well, getting used to the Rodgers system. Like, I suppose we've got to get used to looking at it as well and going, all right, our midfielders aren't going to be pressing straight away. Our forwards aren't going to be pressing straight away. We're going to be, once we've got the ball, it's more, if we can't get the ball through, recycle it, next pass, and get back to playing Brendan ball again.
Yeah.
Do it that way, get back to that. Like, for me, I'm looking at it going, we're not going to be as careless with the ball. Like under Ange, we'd try the aggressive pass, and that's something that Hatate was really good at. We'd go those long, aggressive passes, and if we didn't get it, we'd be pressing on top of someone within like half a second, so we'd win the ball back.
Yeah.
We look like we're not playing that way under Brendan, and when you look back to his last time as the club, his teams aren't as aggressive in the press, so it doesn't surprise me. But we've got to, as a fan base, get used to, oh yeah, it's a slightly different style of football again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, does it feel aggressive? I guess under Ange, it was very exciting with like the direct passing, which Hatate was very, very good at. I somebody mentioned in the comments weeks ago, like, I couldn't stick it again as well. If we go back to that, passing back to the defense and rotating around the back 4 and then back up the other side, I will not be able to swallow that again. That's just it's boring to watch. But it wins us games. That's for sure. It's the possession football wins games. I think there's a balance there, which is why I think I was under the illusion that there'd be a bit more of a balance between the sort of type of midfielders that we were going to start. We might still see it. It's the first game of the season, right? We might still see having Hatate coming on with those very direct passing and stuff, and slightly less defensive. And I mean, I guess what we've got is, I think we've got Turnbull's a Rogic-esque player where he doesn't do much movement. He seems to do that very sort of skillful thing where he dominates the space, and that's what he's just going to push up from an attacking position, sort of higher up the pitch. And then we've got maybe Matt O'Reilly's more of the box-to-box type player, but they're not too dissimilar. So we might just had first game of the season, we wanted to control the midfield, and obviously it worked. We won the game overall. There was probably moments where I'd have preferred that direct passing, but our passing was quite sloppy, to be honest. So maybe it was not the right game to have that type of player on the pitch, like Hatate.
With the O'Reilly role in the midfield under Rodgers, I see him as the Armstrong sort of role, alongside your Rogic with Bruni behind, sort of thing. Kelmac doesn't have that same Bruni steal. He's a different sort of number 6, so it's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, I think O'Reilly's more the guy. He's going to play like the role that Armstrong played for us previously.
Yep.
And Turnbull will play that Rogic role. So yeah, I think that worked out well. So I'm going to bring up some comments, and then we'll jump on to the actual game in general. So, hail Dominic. Thanks for tuning in. G'day Patrick, Andrew, Mickey. Thanks for tuning in. All the regulars.
Cracking picture.
Yeah, I love it. That's part of why I brought it up too. What do we got here? Hi, Pat. Paul, hail, mate. Thanks for tuning in again. What else we got here? So, we've got a comment here. Michael Ross, Sevco's new look side, very enjoyable to watch. Yeah, we'll discuss that later on. A bit of zombie watch happening at the end of the pod.
It was nice to see some of those Rangers fans in their Vatican colours. That was a sight to behold.
Yeah. The Vatican Guard out there,
yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm going to bring up this comment here from Dominic because it ties into my overall thoughts on the game, John, which is what I was going to ask you was, thought we played slightly under par, still rusty, but we won and it's more than Sevco. So that's what Dominic's saying. And I'd have to agree with that. For me, I look at the game and go the first probably 15, 20 minutes, I think Ross County got the better of us. Not in terms of overall play, but they got the better opportunities. And they looked more threatening, went racking up a bunch of corners. Then we finally settled into the game and off we went, and we got into our rhythm with our pass, look for the ball, everything, so on. And then we went about our business. So I'm thinking overall we were probably the better team the second half of the first half, if that makes sense. And yeah, and then the second half, I thought it was we're pretty in control, like the old Rodgers style of play that we talk about. Get the ball, just recycle, pass teams to death. Where that used to annoy me back in the day was if you're one goal up and you're doing it, but it does help when you get a couple of early goals and you get ahead and then you just cruise. It's like cruise control through to victory. It's not like, it's basically like you're going from, just watching a sprint race to a marathon, if that makes sense. Ange was all intensity, all sprint, and then it's like, okay, let's just slow it down and off we go. So, yeah, but what was your overall thought on the way the game played out?
I think the comment kind of summed it up, to be honest. I think it definitely was an under par performance. I think the Matt O'Reilly and Turnbull interview afterwards, I think the players think the same. I think it's all pretty apparent. You make a good point about the switching between the Ange system and the Rodgers system, and I guess there still is. It's only like I said, a handful of games that we've really had under Rodgers. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So I guess switching between that intensity, it'll be interesting to see some statistician will be able to tell me maybe in halfway through the season whether Brendan's system or Ange's system is better. But I don't really remember maybe the first 6 games under Ange's first season, but I really remember feeling as worried, or getting as dominated for a first 20 minutes of a game like that. We always seem to kind of shock tactics, if you like, with oppositions, because we were sort of bang and like, oh right, we're in their final, they're in, they're in our final third sort of thing. So we didn't have to defend. And I think the slower pace has maybe invited teams like County to come up and have a go and stuff. And I mean, maybe that clearly to their detriment, but and whether that continues, we'll see. But yeah, it was definitely an under par performance. There's no doubt about it. Like I said before, I think we were dead sloppy with passing. I think there's some really rookie mistakes. I know you mentioned first half versus second half performance, but I think first half. I mean, look, the Ralston situation, that could have been a penalty. It would have been a soft penalty if the ref gave that where Hart sort of, I mean, see, looking back on hindsight, looking at the highlights and stuff, I think Hart did the right thing. I don't think Hart's to blame in this situation because Ralston effectively backpassed, right? So sort of chipping over and passing back to Hart. So I don't think he could have picked it up. He had to do something with it. Just maybe a bit more urgency would have been good. But it would have been a soft pen.
Through it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I think the R pen, the one that Taylor got, I think that kind of gave us a bit of a lifeline. To be honest, I think we were not doing that great until that to that point. But that's fine. It's all swings and roundabouts. Second half, yeah, I agree. We were far more comfortable, but I think the County first County goal was just sloppy defending, really sloppy. We just turned off. I mean, that I can't remember who it was. I think it was double check with it. I think it was White. Yeah, White. I think it was completely unmarked. Nobody was marking him. He just came in and it just had a complete chance at goal, and it was a good goal, if you like. It was a slightly lucky goal. He managed to get it right up and then right down and went in, but that was just been asleep basically. So I think there was a lot to improve on. And look, if it was a tougher opponent, maybe we wouldn't have won a game like that, to be honest. Maybe it would have been a draw, but but both the two big Glasgow sides, I guess, if you like, had easier opponents, and that's the difference. You win games, you lose games. Who does? Yeah, yeah, good one. Yeah, yeah. No, see, like, at the end of the day, it's 3 points. It's 3 points. So you got to go take what you get, and we manufactured the win, so that's all that really matters. But there was a lot to improve on. So
just want to touch on a few things, Johnny, before we get into the individual player performances. But so with the goal scored, you mentioned about the penalty before. It was good. That was a settling penalty. Got us control back into it. Now, got some comments here I want to bring up. I'm just trying to scroll back up to them. So Andrew Galea we let a poor team dominate in the first 15 minutes, outworked to them in the midfield. And then Michael's responded saying we could have been 2 down in that period, which I agree with. On top of that, once we scored, I want to give credit because there was a triple save that he made between, I think, our first and our second. I think it was, or second and third. I think it was after our second and third. That's right. And like, if that was at the other end of the field, I had my doubts that Joe Hart would have done that. Like, he would have saved the first, but then he's got the speed to get up and then go and get the second one. And I'm not mocking Hart. I'm just saying, like, their keeper was in form. So it could have been more than the 4-2. And we didn't play that well overall, as you touched on, and people in the comments have touched on as well here. But as Mickey Mott played a County for coming out swinging.
Yep.
I like seeing a team come out and actually try and play football.
Yep. It was good to see, for sure. And maybe I was thinking about this. I forgot to actually look it up. I think maybe a symptom of the particular game was we hadn't had as many games pre-season because of previous European qualifying matches. Normally, we get through these shaky periods earlier on in our season because we need to qualify for the Champions League, right? Or trying to qualify for a European competition. So we get through some of the playoff rounds and stuff like that, and these types of performances where we're still kind of in holiday mode, if you like. We just need to sort of shake that dust off and then crack on, and then normally we're sort of into the season swinging sort of thing. And I don't think we have that luxury, but I don't know. That's not necessarily a bad thing, to be honest. Like, I think it's obviously extremely early, so I don't think all results particularly matter, or performances certainly don't. I think results matter, but I think, yeah, like it's probably just a symptom of we're not having as many games before preseason, is why we're a little bit sloppy.
Let's look at it this way, Johnny. Ange first come in, and his first 6 games, as you mentioned, was average. At the end of that season, we won the league. People weren't talking about those games at the start of the season, were they?
Exactly. Yeah.
And as you just said there, we picked up the 3 points. Across town, they've dropped points. It's like it's a massive weekend early on in terms of the overall scheme of things. Come the end of the season, we win the comp, we go straight into the Champions League again, and then they don't. Then I'm not going to remember who back pass that Ralston that Joe Hart had Bobby Madden actually stand up for him and say that's not a penalty on social media.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happened. I'm not going to remember that at the end of the season. I might remember some bits here and there, but I'm not going to remember who misplaced passes and that the midfield was overworked, and that Hatate looked like he was sitting on the bench having a bit of a strop because he didn't start. Things like that. It's like at the end of the day, it's a marathon over the course of the season. But I'll bring up some comments here. So Mahesh has brought up a stats one for us that the good news is Celtic had a 66 accuracy of shots on target. Best in Ange ball achieved was 50%. The mid-speed ball playing in the final third leading to a greater accuracy rather than high-speed Ange ball, which is what I was talking about earlier about the whole try and just get the pass through and win it back. Patrick McLaughlin is we've kind of got used to the swashbuckling first 30 minutes for a while, haven't we?
Sure have. And it's entertaining. At the end of the day, it's very entertaining to watch. But, if we're all honest with each other, in a balanced way, are we more do we care more about an electric draw or loss, or are we more caring about a slightly passive win? I think that's, it says a lot, right? We'd much rather dominate a game, passing it around for 90 minutes and still winning the match than absolutely smashing the keeper, the offensive keeper, and getting a draw. So, which we never got, to be fair. We still were getting wins, but I think overall the point is it's like Mahesh was saying, it's more accurate. We want to be in that sort of 2/3 and above range, but shots on target accuracy and stuff. So
something Mickey says as well. Mickey says here, John, to be honest, I think the dominance we had in Ange ball had a flip side of not testing our defence enough when we encountered better teams in the Champions League.
For sure.
That definitely plays into us as well. And I actually feel a bit more settled, having seen the way Nawrocki came in and played on the weekend alongside Carter Vickers, and then going, okay, cool, that looks solid. They've got to grow and develop a partnership, but they did get a bit of a test as well early on. So, and then Patrick McLaughlin's a wee bit of a shock to the system when we get pinned back early doors. And as Michael Ross says here, early days though, 3 points clear of them. Exactly.
Yeah. The first 3. Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. It's we suffered in Europe because we played so high up the pitch domestically that when we got to Europe, we played better opposition. We never had the luxury of pinning the opposition right up in their final third sort of thing. So we need. I mean, our defense is still pretty wobbly, to be honest. It doesn't inspire me necessarily with huge amounts of confidence that our back 4 is not as strong as our front 3 in any. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be more balanced, and we don't really have that balance. We're very top heavy, if you like. So maybe sometimes having teams getting opportunities to I don't know if pinned back is the way that I would describe it, but playing better than what we would normally expect might actually just keep our defense a bit sharper for the more important games like Champions League.
Yep, exactly. Keep them switched on. So, with the goals conceded, I just want to talk about their 2 goals. The first one we've spoken about, Naroski gets out jumped, and on top of that, you've got our shortest player on the back post in Kyogo.
Yeah,
I think those are the 2 issues that play well together. If you had a taller player on the back post, would have cleared that. Instead, Kyogo just missed it by maybe an inch or 2. So they had someone a little bit taller, and what happens? They don't get that first goal, even though Naroski got out jumped. Second one, Carl Starfelt's potential last action in the Celtic jersey is an own goal. The way he was a whipping boy in his first season at the club, and he was a whipping boy not just on social media, on this podcast. Sean used to rip into him all the time, and we were talking
rightly
about it.
so.
Oh, I know, but I'm looking at it going, you see what Naroski's done as he's come in and the performance he's put in, how short he looks, and then you look at Starfelt, and it's like, okay, you can see why he was the guy on the bench. And yeah, it's just not, it's just, if that's the way for him to sign off at the club, then that's just perfect Starfelt for us, is the way everyone's spoken about him.
Yeah,
But
I look. I think the first goal had a big healthy dollop of luck involved. I don't know how many times you could recreate that scenario and have the ball dip that quick and just happen to go in the side of the goal sort of thing. Yeah, I think maybe Starfelt's. I think partly might be to do with off the pitch is why he didn't start as well. Not all, but partly. And it was unfortunate. I mean, look, it was a wild attempt at goal, and and he stuck a foot out doing what a defender should do. And I mean, to be fair, it's one of the things that goalkeepers practice a lot is those types of balls. So see, and this is going to sound a bit harsh, but I do think Hart is somewhat to blame for that. He's not entirely to blame, and it's not, I don't know, 20% or something like that. But those are the types of scenarios that goalkeepers practice a lot, is those sort of ricocheting, bouncing up balls. So potentially with a slightly better keeper, more reactive keeper, that goal wouldn't have happened. But maybe what I'm thinking is an absolute worldie of a goalkeeper, and we might not quite be able to afford that. But yeah, both goals were slightly unfortunate, I would say. Bit of luck involved.
Yep, 100% there, Johnny. But at the end of the day, we still got the win, so onwards and upwards we go. As I said in the group chat straight after the game, my thought was pretty simple. Average was a bit of a tough one overall. Like, it was not what we're used to, but we got the win and there's room for improvement. So onwards and upwards we go. On to the next one, basically.
For sure. Yep. And we've got a tough away match, I believe, is the next one. Is it Aberdeen?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to test ourselves a bit more there, sort of ramping up the difficulty, I guess. Where they finished third last season. So, it's definitely, we'll see more of where we're at in those types of games as well, I think.
Yep, 100%. So some individual players from the game, just wanted to touch on. First one for me, Kyogo's performance, dropping deeper, getting more involved. Unbelievable. Good to see there's more strength to his bow.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. That type of forward that we need as well. So in that build-up play.
So Andrew has commented Kyogo was brilliant. And then Michael Ross was, to be honest, some good performances individually, but a bit disjointed as a whole. I think that sums it up pretty well as well.
Very, very, very fair. And it is, you're absolutely right, Jared. It's really good to see that Kyogo is not just that poacher type, that he actually has quite a well-rounded game. He's, look, touch wood here, and I generally hope he doesn't, but we'll not have him at Celtic forever. He's a very good player. He'll spark interest. He's getting into the territory now, which is if he continues to improve at the rate he does, he could potentially go for good money. I don't know. It might be. Was he 27, 28? So it's not going to be astronomical, but you know, it could be one last big move for him, and which I think at the rate that he's developing, it's more than he deserves. It's all that he deserves. Sorry, it's definitely all that he deserves.
The thing with Kyogo as well, though, John, is it's like we've only ever seen him playing in Ange ball, if that makes sense, as Celtic fans. So
Yep,
we've only ever
we have.
seen him pressing and working hard and being the guy on the end of the crosses coming in, starting offside position. Like the goal he scored on the weekend, he started a mile offside, ball goes to Abada plays him on side with the pass, bang, one touch in. That's
Yep,
what we've seen from Kyogo for the last 2 years. That's what we're used to. So seeing him come in and playing as a centre forward, but dropping deeper to get the ball and spray it out to the wingers to then use his speed to get back in, putting the centre backs in two minds. Do I come with Kyogo up to the ball and now open up room for, say, Abada to run into or Maeda to run into? Or do I hold off and let the midfielders cover him, but then know that then once he gets the ball and he plays that pass out, he's going to run off those guys and be coming in at the centre backs with a full head of steam behind him with his speed and agility? It's kind of like, what do? You can't get it right as a defender. So I
yeah.
actually think that's going to unlock him even more.
Yep, and the best players continually evolve their game, right? So, exactly as you're saying, like it only takes a season for teams to figure you out. So, you know, if you stick to the exact same thing that you've always done, you'll just get caught out. And good players evolve and change their game and add more versatility, as you're saying, and he's doing all of those things, and it's just an absolute privilege to watch. To be honest, I think he's gonna. I mean, he's kind of stepping into that false nine, Firmino type role,
Yeah.
where he's not as you were saying, he's not playing as high up in the pitch, and be dead interested to see how that goes. I think it's going to be quite exciting. I think we could see a really big scoring season for him.
Apparently that role's the role that he played over at Vissel Kobe before he come to us.
Oh, there you go.
So he's
That's yeah.
back on his bike, taking the training wheels off, and he's just two, three pedals, and he's back at it again. So
Well, if the previous seasons to go by where that wasn't his sort of comfortable go-to role, and actually he's going to go back to that sort of comfortability, Jesus, what we're going to see is something special out of him.
yep.
He's definitely and it means that maybe having different types of strikers even more. I mean, one of the things that I always thought and Kyogo were slightly similar. They were both kind of target men poachers. They both like to play really close to the goalkeeper, so to speak. Now we're getting two different types of strikers, and that just helps our depth, right? That just helps types of games. We're getting back into the sort of Giacomakis. Do you know what I mean? We're starting to get like the other type of striker that we had now that we've got Owen Kyogo.
It's funny you just brought him up because I was about to mention Giacomakis in that dropping deep, get the ball and playing guys in. I would have loved to have seen him in that role. But at
Yeah,
the same, I thought he would have done some damage, getting in, passing out, and then making that run in, a short run with the crosses and that coming in. I thought that would have been interesting to see him because majority, I think, was his first 20 goals or 18 goals were just first touch finishes. So that would have been perfect. But then at the same time, you've got Kyogo playing that role. You've got O coming on, who's like a bigger version of him, who can throw his weight around and looks like he loves the physicality. And then you've got Maeda, when he plays as a striker, plays more the Vardy-esque sort of role where it's just be on the guy's shoulder, putting those runs in behind. So we've got different type of options as strikers. So it's really good to see what's going on. But
for sure.
I'm going to bring up a comment from Mickey Moynihan as well about one player that we're going to touch on. It wasn't even on my list to discuss. It's a good comment, so I'm going to put it in there. I'm concerned that the left back position seems to be getting singled out for exploitation. Greg Taylor is a chink in our armour. He needs upgraded. Now, for me, I thought Greg Taylor was, if he wasn't our player of the season last year, he was damn close to it before he got injured. So
Yeah,
I rate him. Where my problem with Taylor at the moment is if we're playing with inverted fullbacks, it works. If we're not playing inverted, he's not a Rodgers style fullback that's up and down the wing, getting to the byline, putting crosses in. He's never really been that sort for us. So I can understand where you're saying it needs upgraded, especially for in Europe. but I'd like to get your thoughts on it, John.
It feels it feels harsh to say. I'm starting to feel like Greg Taylor might be a much improved Johnny Hayes type character, where we have this very good player who's good for the team, and you don't really like to say that we need to get better, but you do, right? I think you're actually you hit the nail on the head there, where he's better as the inverted. I don't think he ever, even when he was at Killy, he never really did that, running up the line and big crossing in. He is good at that, but I don't think he can do it consistently for 90 minutes. So I mean, I think Taylor's crossing's very good. In fact, I think he does. I think he's quite efficient at doing that. And the sort of coming in, kind of like KT did very well. It won as a penalty, right? So the first penalty was because Taylor cut in and was going for goal, and that eventually led to a foul and got his penalty. So I don't think it's I don't think he's a million miles off the type of character that we need. I think Barnaby is further away from what we actually need than Greg Taylor is. But I think Barnaby might be more of that up and down the wing type character that I think Rodgers would probably prefer. So it's, again, we're in this really awkward position where we kind of need a blend of the two. I think defense overall needs to be improved, but I do think left back is a weakness, and I think a second right back as well. But that's a different conversation. But I joked last time I was on about a loan for KT, but we just need that type of player again to really do well in Europe again. We need somebody with that type of ability, just to the energy and the fitness and maybe all of those things, just to run up a deck, almost play as a winger, but be defensively strong when needed. And I don't know if Taylor has all of that we need. Maybe we're just not in a position where we can get that right now. Maybe we're probably definitely trying, and we just can't get the right character or fee or whatever. But yeah, I think it's been on the cards for a while, but it's hard because exactly what you said, Jared. He played phenomenally last season. I think a lot of that is probably because he was playing in a very, very strong Celtic side. So it kind of brings the game up. I think we're in a transition right now, and it's showing deficiencies. I think that's also true of players like Hart as well. So yeah,
Yep.
it's a hard one to take, but yeah, I agree. We need to improve.
We had a comment from Stephen Ray here, which is Taylor is too small and slow as a traditional fullback. He was targeted in Europe last year and will be again this year. Rodgers played more 3-4-3 in Europe last year with Leicester. So that'd basically be wingbacks more than likely defensively, then push it forward.
Yeah.
And then RL77 was like Taylor and Bernabé, but teams will target their position because they're small.
Yep.
And that's what it is there. So that actually, I think we'll just leave that bit there in terms of the individual players. Debut boys, we've spoken about Naroski, how well he played. Home and Yang came off the bench. It's good to see them get their debut. Home looks a player. Yang looks a player as well. We need to see a bit more of them, though, to deep dive into what their games are like and how they'll work within the system and all that sort of thing. But it was good to see some guys coming off the bench. I'm going to go to you, John, with the big question, not the one in the subject, the episode name about Starfelt. We're still hanging on to that for a little bit. But what's going on with Reo Hatate? What do you think's going on there? Do you think he's pushing for a move? Do you think he's just, do you think there's something else going on? Like he's not training well enough, or there's a language barrier between him and Brendan, or what do you think's going on there?
Northern Irish to Japanese is a particularly difficult translation. So, look, I don't know. I think Hatate is still kind of raw. He still gives a lot of balls away. When he's on form and he's good, he's unplayable, right? And I would always have him in a team. Like I said in the beginning, I would have probably moved out of just pig-headedness, but I'd probably played Hatate in front of Turnbull anyway. What do I think he's taking a move? I think every single player, when the transfer windows are open, are always kind of looking for a better, like a step up and a pay rise and all those things. I don't think that necessarily means he's pushing for a move. He probably has had an agent whisper in his ear that other teams are interested, and he's, that's distracted him. I think only the very, very best players and sports people sort of can manage that type of rumors and still maintain performances and not kind of get their head sort of turned and stuff. And I don't think he's in a strop. I think like every good player, he wants to start, right? And he probably feels a bit gutted that Turnbull, who he beat in the position for, right? So Turnbull got dropped and Hatate was playing, right? So and now it's kind of reversed, and because they've got a new manager, and he's probably gutted about that. But if he wants to continue at Celtic, he has to rise to those sort of challenges. We have to be fighting for positions, otherwise, before the whole standard drops and performances drop and stuff. So, I just think it's part of the game. I think football players have big egos, and it's probably bruised his ego a little bit. But I don't think he's pushing. I think it's just part of the game. I think we'll probably see lots of Hatate this season, and I think he'll continue to get stronger, personally.
Well, off the back of that, John, for me, I'm looking at it going, certain players suit different managers' systems better. And with Hatate coming over from Japan here and doing what he's done, like the last couple of years, I think it's going to take him a bit of time to get used to this sort of system. And I think it'd still work. But at the same time, commenting from Stephen Ray, where he goes, I didn't think Hatate would have started. I think Hatate gives the ball away too much for a Rodgers team. Wouldn't be surprised if he was sold. So on that there, the fact that he does give the ball away, which I touched on earlier on in the pod, that's one for me where until he tidies that part of his game up, I don't think Brendan's going to feel like he can rely on him. He's had 6 games or whatever, 7 games now to look at the way they play and see what's happening. But yeah, it's a bit of a doozy, to be honest with you.
I mean, if you were to wave a magic wand and tidy up that part of Hatate's game, he gets in front of Turnbull and Matt O'Reilly every single day of the week. If you have a Hatate that has a high pass completion percentage and still manage to do those big direct sort of defense breaking passes, he's in the team every single week, and it is a people person like Rodgers that will sort of get that out in his game and sort of stuff. I don't think he's that far off it. I really don't think he's that far off it. I still think he's in. I don't think he's pushing for a move. I don't think Rodgers thinks, this isn't. I don't want this type of player. I think we're going to play a lot of games in this season, and I think we'll see a lot of Hatate, and I think you'll see him improve along with players like Barnaby, right, who are also dead raw, different levels, but they're dead raw players, and there's still like mistakes in their game and stuff.
Well, something you just said there, John, just made the press conference after the game with what's it called, O'Reilly and Turnbull, just pop into my head again. Because as O'Reilly said, we're going to play 60-odd games this season. We're in the league and 3 cups.
For sure.
So you've got that. So there's got to be rotation. We've got to have quality players. And as he said about Turnbull, like he should have played more last season and he didn't. So that's, as I was saying, it's different players, different systems and everything like that. Hatate will come good. Rodgers has already said on the Japan tour he doesn't want to sell him. So he will have to come good. He'll have to train and do it. But Rodgers has also got to learn the players, like which player you put an arm around, which player you can give a kick up the arse, because you have a look at the way O'Reilly's talking about Ange, and he's like, it's not like flat out just abusing him, but it's like if you read between the lines of what he's saying, he seems to think that, I think O'Reilly's more the sort you'd want to put an arm around and give him a little cuddle and be more approachable, because he said that about Rodgers being more approachable than Ange was. So
yeah,
it's going to work. Like maybe Hatate had that guy with the arm around him, or maybe he responded better to Ange last year, where he was constantly on his case and just like pushing him, and that's just the way he is. And Rodgers hasn't worked that out yet, so it's a matter of time to just get there and Rodgers to learn what works and which buttons to push and when with all his players. So
Yeah.
it's early days. I'm not too worried about it.
I do remember there was a game last season. I hope somebody can remember it, where we were playing absolutely rotten in the first half, and it came out afterwards that Ange went into the dressing room and just unleashed on Hatate, like absolutely lost the plot. And then second half, Hatate was unplayable. I think that's I think that's how Hatate responds. I think he needs the kick up the arse, so to speak. I don't think the arm around the shoulder is going to work with a player like him. I do agree. And maybe Rodgers isn't that. I don't think Rodgers is that type of manager. I don't think he's going to walk into a dressing room and kick bins and scream and the hairdryer treatment at all. He's not that type of manager. So Hatate's got to learn to get that fire from himself. Otherwise, he's not going to work at Celtic because it's changed. It's a new regime, right? So
You can't have the manager motivating you all the time. Like it's your career at the end of the day. It's not
that's it.
the gaffer's career. It's the players. If you're not up to it, you become a Marion shred and you get moved on if you
That's
get
it.
too sulky. So
Look, and you want players sometimes to spit the dummy. You want that. You want them to be really upset that they're not playing. What you also want is them to be the professional and the sportsman, and then to take that resentment and turn it into fire, and then put it into the training pitch, and then eventually they're unplayable again. That's what you want. But I just watch the space. We'll see what happens. I think Hatate will be a big player for the season.
final thought here on Hatate to Stephen Ray's comment here, which is Hatate to Brighton with Billy Gilmore coming our way.
No, thank you.
3 things on that. 1, Hatate would be happy because he's best mates with Matoma there. 2, Billy Gilmore coming in would actually be the sort of number 10 that would suit the way Rodgers plays, and he would tick the boxes for homegrown quantities for Europe. Okay. 3, how good would the meltdown be coming out of Ibrox in the hoops? Like one of their youth players whose mum, at his unveiling at Norwich when he went on loan, refused to touch the green part of the scarf that she was holding and only held the yellow part. How much would that absolutely burn the joint to the ground over there? That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. We turned Scott Brown, so who knows? Nah, I don't rate Gilmore. I think he's average as shit.
I'm just brought up for the laugh, and then you got Alan Woods. Wouldn't want Billy Gilmore. The mother has filled him with hate. Michael Ross. Gilmore's on massive wages. People forget about it. Yeah, I'm just saying that for a laugh. I'm not saying it's actually going to happen. But that sort of player would work. What's that? Red Scotland sign Gilmore, then force him to marry the daughter of the Swiss guard. Dude, you're off your chops. You're going to love it. Okay, so we spoke about it. It's the name of the episode. Has Carl Starfelt played his last game for Celtic? So I'm going to bring up a few things here because the questions are, is Starfelt leaving Celtic? To me, it looks like he is. All the reporting is that he is. We've discussed early on, he's 28 years old. He wants to be closer to his missus. Apparently his parents live in Portugal as well. So it ticks a lot of boxes for him, especially going to Celta Vigo, which is only like a 3-4 hour drive down to Lisbon and all that sort of stuff. So makes sense for him. However, we've got some comments here. So Robert Gibson's comment from earlier on in the pod: if Starfelt chases Jacinta, his next position will be under her thumb. Don't spit your drink out, Johnny. Patrick McLaughlin here
that was so badly timed.
Pick the first team squad away from the Lassies team. Pat Warren was, what's thoughts on Starfelt? I'm just going through here, seeing what else we've got. So we've got one other comment here from Stephen Ray, which ties into the next one. So I'll go to you, John. What's your thoughts? Is Starfelt leaving? Is he played his last game at Celtic?
Well, I mean, from Roger's comments, if it's not the last, it will be the second to last. You might see him in the Dons game. I think he's gone. I think he's decided. I think we wanted to look, and it's not as if we didn't want to improve on him. It's not as if we're like absolutely gutted here that Starfelt's moving on. We've all talked about how we think he's good, but there's deficiencies, and we want to improve on him, and blah 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 blah. Right? So it's not like we're going to be begging him to stay. But he is good enough to stick around. And if you wanted, if he was, I was going to say like the next defensive pairing, but that's kind of it's kind of a step down for him, right? So, I mean, I think he's good enough to stick around. But as I think everybody's pointed out, I think he wants to be with his missus. And why would you not when your missus is Jacinta? You're going to move wherever. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, he'll be left back in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It must have made a big impression on Starfelt.
Look, there's bigger things in football, I guess, if that's what he wants to do, wants to move on. Yeah, like I said before, it's not as if we were begging him to stay before all these rumours came out. We always wanted to improve on him.
So Pete McGee's Rogers certainly made it sound like he was on his way out. Managers don't comment like that unless it's true.
Yeah, and I would also say that Rogers is the type of manager as well that see if it's not like pretty much done, like already signed or already agreed and we're pending stuff, and he wouldn't have said anything. He would have just, no comment-esque type of comment. But yeah, I think Rogers' comments just confirms it. He's off. He's gone. So we might see him in one more game. Might not. He said sometime next week, Rogers. So
yeah. So talking about who will, first of all, do we need to replace him? For me, yes we do. We're strengthening the squad. Yeah, I said last week we got 6 centre backs on the books already with Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Naroski. You got Scales, Kobayashi, Welsh. There's 6. Realistically, Kobayashi will probably go on loan. And then if you get to a game where, say, if Carter Vickers is out hurt or Naroski's suspended or whatever, and you're down to having to play Scales or Welsh, it's a bit of a drop off. So we definitely do need to bring someone in.
Yep.
I think we're all agreeing that across pretty much the whole supporter base. So it's just a matter of who do we bring in to replace him. Now, I'm going to bring up this comment here from Stephen Ray. Rumours about Scott McKenna to replace Starfelt. Big and quick, natural left centre back who qualifies as homegrown and in the last year of his deal at Nottingham Forest. Also, for me, Hart needs upgraded and moved to backup. The Hart situation, yeah, we all agree that needs to be addressed. But then McKenna, I feel like we're in a time warp and we're going back again to Lenny's season when we were rumoured to him. So Alan Woods was talk of McKenna. Please no, he'll be on big wages. Michael Ross, no to McKenna. Mickey Moynihan, McKenna is a donkey.
Yeah, he's driftwood. He's just a big fucking lump. I don't think he's the type of player that we want.
Patrick McLaughlin, Scott McKenna equals John Suter. Stay away from him. Craigie White is CCV's the main attraction. Bye Carl. We move on to an upgrade. So realistically, I think the majority of us don't really want him. Now, I can understand the talk and the reason on why it's McKenna, but there you go. B's comment here is McKenna is the new Gary Caldwell. No, thanks. So, yeah, some people are saying 5 million, others are saying 9 million. So, yeah, I'll just look at it and go, I don't think McKenna's the one. Now, Xavier Mumbyama from Volendam in Holland. So this is Patrick's referring to in this comment. I'd like to see us go for the Dutch lad who's moved to San Pretoria, broke down his Starfelt Izovski. That's who that is. 6'4", scored 5 goals last season. Team that's managed to stay up. He's basically very similar sort of build and player type of their age. So come through the Chelsea and Barcelona youth system. The talk is like you could pick him up for 2 to 3 million because of last year of his contract and a bunch of other things. So if we can get him, get it done.
Yeah, that's more the caliber that I think Celtic's going to go for. I think just to quickly comment on the other defense that we have, I don't really think we've got 6 contenders. Kobayashi, oh God, I do think he's done, and I think he's done because he still had some proving to do. And then Rogers came in, and I think that's even harder to do. So I don't think he's there. I don't think Scales is what we're looking for, which means really we're going to be left with Welsh. We need another one, as we're talking about. McKenna's not the cut that we're looking for as that type of role. It's the sort of backup one to train, potentially being a first team. The Dutch lad, I think, is Muyamba. I think if we sign him, I've got to get used to saying that. I think he's looks good. He reminds me a lot of Julian, that big, tall, thin defensive player. Scores goals, and yeah, played almost 30 games last season in the Dutch league. So he's definitely up there, right? So he's from good stock. So I think that would be more likely what we sign and have sort of Welsh and him as our next 2 defensive centre backs.
Yep, 100%. So there was a post on Twitter on Everything Celtic page about the Starfelt replacements. So it's a good point here. So a name Celtic have already had on their list and target for a good reason is Xavier Muyamba. The 21-year-old is down 6'4", was given helped Volendam's side retain the Eredivisie status and even bag 5 goals. Another one that they're saying we're linked with is an all-rounded left-footed centre-back, Maxine Stevie, has been all the attributes. He's 6'4", technically gifted, quick, strong in the tackle, and the Montpellier man has bags potential to discover for only a 21-year-old. And then if you want to get Bernabeu, mate, we can get Valentin and Gomez, 20-year-old Argentinian left centre-back who started every match in the Under-20 World Cup. He's quick, comfortable on the ball, aggressive, and yeah, he plays at Valles in Argentina. So that could be another potential left field solution there. So I think realistically, as you said, John, we've got to get someone to. Carter Vickers plays right centre back. Naroski plays left centre back. We need a backup for each of them who's quality.
Yep.
And
I think you just
quality,
said it.
By quality, I mean who could start for us. We need at least one guy who could start at Champions League level for us, if need be. The way Yen stepped in last season, but hopefully a better player than him. But then we also need someone underneath that, for that production line that we talk about. So whether that's the 4th string centre back is either Kobayashi or the 4th string centre back is, say, Scales, for instance, as a left centre back playing under Naroski. That could work if the club wants to go the Peter Law or Skint sort of thing and just, not spend obvious amounts.
Yep.
I knew I'd get a bite for that comment about, Bernabeu's and get him a mate. Robert Gibson. Yeah. So, yeah, there's plenty of options there. I'm sure we'll get someone because, as Brendan said in another post, was if Starfelt leaves, we want to bring someone in. So, yeah, we need to strengthen the squad. So off we go.
It's dead surprising from what we were talking about last week or whenever it was. The amount of players that we need out the door, and we're still talking about actually the players that we want to come in. We could have.
We have a 50-man squad if we keep going the way.
We could have 15, 16 players leave in the next 2-3 seasons. That's pretty mad numbers when you think about it.
Look, you go through the wage list that was out at the end of last season for the players, right? And the guys we've got under contract who aren't playing, like Sorrow, Ayeti, Barkassi, even though now he's left, and a bunch of other guys in there, McCarthy and all these guys. If we can move these guys on, we're going to free about $100,000 in our wage bill a week. So if you take that out off, and then you look at it and go, okay, we managed to bring in these 3 players that we're all talking about, these, 6 to 9, 10 million pound players that we need. So if we bring them in and you're paying them 35 grand each, you covered it without even expanding your wage bill. It's perfect business, but we've got to somehow manage to get guys out first to be able to do it.
Yep. I mean, I don't think we financially need to, but I think just for that sort of small cohesion of your first squad, unless you're doing dead ruthless stuff, which I probably don't know, I have no idea if they do, but like you only train the ones that are actually squad players, and everybody else go fucking do whatever you want to do, just go work it out and do it over in the corner over there, sort of thing. I don't know if we do that at Celtic, but we unless you do that, then I guess it's just a mitigated risk of how can we afford to keep McCarthy on for another 5 years? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's probably we can afford it, whether he plays or not. Do you know what I mean? So,
if only there was a reserve league, John, in Scotland, that these guys could actually still get a game every week, even though they're not playing in the first team. So scouts from down the road or whatever could come in and have a look and be like,
yeah.
oh, this player would fit in our team. Cool. Or here's some game tape from their agents that they can give to other clubs to look at. This is what I've been doing for the last 6 months. I'm not playing in the first team, but this is the development I've had over the course of a season. Now get me a move.
Yeah, he's been playing Football Manager, hasn't he? That's what he's been doing. He's been doing nothing.
100%, mate. Anyway, there's got to be a better way, but we've got to get some dead wood out.
For sure.
We also do need to strengthen the first team. Now, last thing for the pod, we're talking about it. Everyone in the comment section, please fill it up with laughing emojis, whatever. Let's all laugh at the Huns losing 1-0 to Killy. Ha 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 ha.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's how I feel. Good to see them losing. Like, all the talk all preseason is, oh, they spent 17 million. They brought in all these players. Beale's got his players in. It's going to be crazy. And as I said, they're like a bunch of hammer throwers. So, like, my thoughts watching the highlights of their game was, yeah, they are big across the pitch like we looked at, but the goal they conceded, the ball was on the ground at the 6-yard box, and none of their defenders or midfielders around him could get a foot to it around a shorter, more technical midfielder. Like, it says it all. So realistically, you go into the games, when we play them, it's going to come down to who gets the game played on their terms. Are they going to be getting their free kicks, getting their corners, and trying to bully us and play over the top? Or are we going to have the ball in the deck and pass them to death? That's what the game's going to come down to. But I don't fear them at all.
Nah.
We strengthen a couple more. We're fine.
They unsurprisingly deluded themselves with how much they actually had to build, and they've a much bigger build than they realized, and they were showing up, which is good to see. It's good to see the meltdown after one game. That's prime Sevco.
That's brilliant. That's all I've got to say. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Thursday's podcast, 7:30 Melbourne time. I'm not sure what time exactly that is over in Scotland, but it'll be in the morning. Tune in. We'll preview the weekend's games, talk about any further news that's popped up over the next few days. Until then, thanks for joining us. Hit the like button on all the social media posts. Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever it is. Give us a like the video, subscribe on YouTube, and thanks for tuning in. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.